Good morning, my name is Alfaro. I am currently in the 10th grade attending Da Vinci Design, and today I will be presenting my English and History POL. I would like to start off with English. Yeah, it goes slow. Okay, so for the book Fahrenheit 451, we had to do a character analysis on the character that we chose. So I chose to do Guy Montag. I stated that Guy Montag is a character who demonstrates pride and egotism in what he does, which is being a fireman. And towards the end of the book, he realizes that he has characteristics that he did not believe he could possess. So my first excerpt states, he hung up his beetle-collared helmet and shined it. He hung up his flame-proof jacket neatly, he showered it luxuriously, and then, whistling, hands in his pocket, walked across the upper floor of the fire station and fell down the hole. At the last moment, when disaster seemed positive, he pulled his hands from his pockets and broke his fall by grasping the golden pole. So I believe this excerpt really demonstrates how egotistic he is. It demonstrates how when he shined his helmet or hung up his jacket neatly and he showered luxuriously, those adjectives really describe how egotistic he is. And also the way when he was falling down the fire pole, how at the last moment he grasped the pole, and that really shows how self-assured he is, and he knows that everything he's going to do is going to be with confidence. So another excerpt states, it was a pleasure to burn. It was a pleasure to see things eaten, to see things blackened and changed. So this really demonstrates how prideful he is in being a fireman. The way Ray Bradbury used the word pleasure multiple times in this statement really shows how Montag he felt like a pleasure while burning the books. He felt very prideful and honored to be doing that. So in this statement, you can see how his mindset sort of changes from egotistical to more tender side of him. So it states, we have everything we need to be happy, but we aren't happy. Something's missing. I looked around. The only thing I positively knew was gone was the books I'd burned in 10 to 12 years. So this demonstrates how he realizes what he's been doing is wrong, and it shows a more tender side of him. Where it states, but we aren't happy, something's missing, shows how, like I said, his mindset changed from he was being very confident and self-assured to he knows what he's doing now and it's the wrong thing to do. And when it states the only thing I knew was gone was the books I'd burned in 10 to 12 years. So like I said, that's just stating that his mindset is changing and his characteristics, he now realizes that he has different characteristics that he didn't believe he could possess. So my last excerpt states, like gray animals peering from electric capes, faces with gray colorless eyes, gray tongues, and gray thoughts looking out through the numb flesh of the face. So this demonstrates how intrepid Montag was while traveling through the dark streets trying to find a way to the river. And where it states, peering from electric caves, gray colorless eyes, gray tongues, and gray thoughts, Ray Bradbury used the word gray to demonstrate how sort of, I guess, lost Montag was, and he didn't really know what to do or where to go next, but he was still brave enough to go through with it and still find his way to the river to find the other people that were just like him. And that concludes my English POL. I would like to transition to world history. So my thesis statement states, Thomas Jefferson had the greatest influence on the development of American democracy because of his main contribution with the Declaration of Independence. So for my first evidence to back up my thesis statement, I stated, Thomas Jefferson brought together different ideas from Enlightenment thinkers and created a basis for fundamental American beliefs, and those beliefs are basically freedom, liberty, and equality. So for my justification, I took a piece from the Declaration of Independence, and you can see that where I bolded it, these quotes are what Thomas Jefferson used to put together different Enlightenment thinker ideas. So I won't be reading the whole quote because it's pretty long, but I'll be reading the bolded parts. So in this part it states, certain unalienable rights that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So Thomas Jefferson took the ideas from John Locke and Voltaire, and he took their beliefs because they both believe that people should have their natural rights such as life, liberty, religion, or property. And the second one states, Government becomes destructive of these ends. It is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. And he also took the ideas of John Locke, where he believed that people should have the right to overthrow the government if it becomes too corrupt. And what I mean by corrupt is if, for example, the government ever decides to tax the people too high, or if the government decides to take away their natural rights. So for my second piece of evidence, I stated that Thomas Jefferson had one of the main roles in the Declaration of Independence, which started the American Revolution. So the American Revolution was a war fought between Great Britain and the 13 British colonies in America. This war started because the colonies did not like the acts of the British Empire, and some of the acts were that the British Empire tried to declare what colonies could trade with what countries, and the colonists didn't like that. They wanted free trade. And another act was that the Stamp Act, and the British Empire decided to make the colonists pay for stamps in order to pay for buy basic things such as like newspapers, even playing cards. And this is why I believe that the Declaration of Independence was one of the main things that started the revolution, because the Declaration of Independence basically declared independence from Great Britain, and obviously Great Britain didn't want that. They wanted full control over the 13 colonies. So this is why I believe that the revolution, without the revolution, we wouldn't have the U.S. Constitution we have today. Now we have the Bill of Rights, which gives people inalienable rights, such as like freedom of speech, press, and all of those rights that nobody could take away now. And thank you for your attention. Any questions?
Go ahead for a source search. And I'm going to look the arm up.
Do I keep playing the video?
Yeah. And then on the dock camera's a little button that says focus. There we go.
Okay, so my DBQ, the question was, what is Adam Smith's position on the relationship between government and an economy? So the quote states that the wealth of nations carries the important message of the laissez-faire, which means that the government should interfere as little as possible in economic affairs and leave market alone in order to benefit the people. So I circled wealth of nations, although I don't really know what that means. I kind of took an educated guess, and I put that it kind of meant like the money of the nations. That's what I thought. And then the laissez-faire, I believe the quote the line next to it was the definition of it, and I just made other like. Oh, when it states that the market should leave the economic affairs should leave the market alone in order to benefit the people, I put that they need to make the people happy. That's what he basically wants, to make them, I guess, sort of happy. So for my thesis statement, I put Adam Smith's position on the relationship between government and economy is to benefit the people. Adam Smith states, the government should intervene as little as possible in economic affairs and leave the market alone in order to benefit the people. What he means by this is that he believes that if the government doesn't interfere as much with the people, then the people will eventually be happy and we would all be, I guess, equal. So that's what I put.
Why do you think he thinks the government shouldn't intervene at all? Because I know you told me that the people would be happy, but what do you think else might happen if the government was involved?
If they did interfere, I think that people would get mad, and because it's like what it is today, like when the government tries to do certain rules over us and we don't like it, we get mad. So I think that's what happened with them. So I think what he's trying to do is just make the people happy. That's what I believe that this is about. On to my poetry. Okay, so the sentence says, Aunt Taylor wrote the book in our living room and gave my family a large, old, ugly vase. So Aunt Taylor, I put that they're both a noun because it's her name, and Wrote is a verb. The is always going to be an adjective. A book is a noun, and in is a preposition. Our is a pronoun. Living is an adjective for room, which is the noun. And is a conjunction. Gave is a verb. My is a pronoun. My is a pronoun. Family is a noun. A is an adjective. Large is an adjective. I think that I wasn't really sure about the last one, large, old, ugly, vase. I put that these three are adjectives for this noun. Is that correct? Yeah. And then so the second part, I put that the first two are noun phrases. The second one is a verb phrase. And I know that a noun and a verb overthrows the other parts of speech, so I put that one was a noun phrase. And a preposition is always alone, a prepositional phrase. I put that these three are a noun phrase because they're kind of one whole statement, like our living room.
Right. What's the sounds?
Oh, between this one, before, after book and after the room. And then conjunction is always alone.
Or why is the sounds?
Why did I put the commas? Because it's a natural pause, or because it separates. Well, it's a independent, dependent. Well, I don't think that really matters. I don't know. But it's a natural pause. I just put it because the way I read it. And where did I stop? Family, I put that it's a noun phrase, and a large, old, ugly vase is all an adjective phrase, and the last one is a noun phrase. And then I combined these together, and it was an independent clause. These a dependent, and the last one was dependent.
Thank you.
How do I turn this one off?
Don't turn it off, just,
You're welcome.